In a time where civility does not seem to count, let's talk with two top leaders who think that civility does count. Next on Lakeshore Focus.
Programming is supported by NIPSCO. Today's young minds are constantly reimagining what our world will be like tomorrow. That's why NIPSCO is upgrading its infrastructure now, so we're ready for whatever comes next. More information at nipsco.com/future.
Welcome again to Lakeshore Focus, a weekly show highlighting the key issues, important events, and interesting people in our region. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick. If you've been paying attention to this country's current temperament, and particularly to the atmosphere of politics, you most likely will conclude that civility is dying, or perhaps is already dead. Today on Lakeshore Focus, we have two people who are leading an effort to make a change locally. They have partnered to create a civility project, and we're going to explore this topic of civility and its brother, incivility. Let's welcome to our show Bob Heisse, who is the editor for the Times Media Company, and Chuck Hughes, who is the executive director for the Gary Chamber of Commerce. So I thought I'd start the show off by saying, you guys are ugly and your mom dresses you funny. Is that not civil to do?
Oh, absolutely, in this case.
So you're saying it's true, Chuck?
Oh, absolutely.
But see, that's really not true.
Yeah,
No, it's all about treating people the way you want to be treated.
So
that's the way we
So I need to say, you both look really great and you're handsome. How about that?
we'll take that.
Let's take that. See, because that's how I like to be treated, right? So you guys have kind of, well, let me start the show with kind of saying, what is going on in our country? And it has been, it seemed like for the past several years, people seem to be just talking at each other. They seem to be angry. They seem to be attacking. We see this in politics. We see this at public meetings. We see it at PTA meetings. We see it at Boy Scouts. Maybe not at Boy Scouts, but we sure see it at sports events, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So what is going on that has brought us to this point from your
Keith,
point of view?
you see it at Boy Scouts. You see it everywhere. That's the thing. You see it from the cradle, really, until the grave. There's incivility that abounds in our community. And that's what got our attention in order to try to do some kind of initiative to bring attention to getting away from terrible discourse, bad interaction.
Why do you think we got to this point? I mean, it feels like we've come to this point. What do you think?
Well, I mean, everybody's voice has to be louder than everybody else. It's name calling has gotten us to this point. We've lost the idea of you can debate points and you can actually hear each other and maybe you'll be able to compromise on something. But we want to out yell everybody and call people names, and that is really what's driving this in a bigger way.
Why do you think that? I really want to get to why do you think we've got to this point? Because years ago, it used to feel like people would talk, people would compromise. You didn't hear name calling. You didn't hear people yell out in Congress at the president, liar. You didn't hear this kind of thing. What has brought us to this point?
Keith, some of it is, and I don't want to beat up on social media like everyone does, but obviously some of it is social media. People have a chance to voice their inhibitions, the things that they wouldn't normally say to people, and some of it starts there. I mean, fundamentally, it's a foundation in the social media. The other thing, too, is, and I think Bob and I both experienced this on some of our other appearances when we were first introducing the community civility counts concept, is some people are sort of, I won't say misinterpreting the First Amendment, but they're being much too liberal with it in a negative way.
On the free speech.
I can say what I want to say. I can do it. It's my right to do it. And it's not being mindful of being considerate of who you are directing your actions towards or against in some cases. And so I don't know if we could oversimplify it and say those are the reasons, but I think we all can agree that our society, be it in the home, in domestic situations, kids bullying each other, discourse between business people, in the office, elected officials, we see it everywhere. And so we saw the need to at least have an awareness campaign that would hopefully make people just stop and think for a moment before they act, react, or speak in a very derogatory tone.
I definitely want to get to the project. That's part of what you guys are working on, but I think it really is important to explore this, why we've got to this point, because that's where you got to start. This is where we've got into this name calling. And social media does kind of lack consequences when you post something, yet we still see this at meetings, at public meetings, like at a town council meeting. You'll see people yelling at each other and saying very harsh things. There's consequences there. I mean, so I agree, probably part of it's social media, but it's not all social media.
Right, no, it's not. It's not, but it's interaction, and we have just gotten more extreme with that kind of interaction. I really believe that you can accomplish so much more if you discuss and debate and are considerate with each other and each other's opinions. And that's really this awareness effort that we're trying to do to make people understand that.
Well, the three of us believe
the
that.
unfortunate thing is what we're doing starts at a community level. Nationally, this has gotten to be this way, and we're all watching it, whether we watch broadcast television or we hear it in different ways. We're watching it, and we bring it back to this level. I think that's one contributing to a lot of it.
Well, the three of us, I know, agree upon this civil conversation, having civil discourse. But that's not evidently what a huge portion of the people living in our region, living in this country believe. They believe I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, and to whomever I want without really any consequence. I mean, I guess I'm still trying to understand
It's systemic.
why we've just got so wild about this.
Let's face it. Again, if I make a reference to social media, I see some of the most awful posts, and Bob does as well, if people putting their children up, their kids up to fight, or their kids to say negative things about other kids, or if you look at sports and other activities, entertainment, I mean, you see athletes beating their chests, you see them taunting their opponents, you see just the most awful things said in competition against each other. I mean, it's at every facet, every walk of our lives, and it's starting to permeate our entire society. Again, we can take the position that, hey, it's just, that's where we are now. That's the times that we're living in. I get sick of hearing that, because I think those are buzzwords for not taking any kind of preventive action in order to restore the kind of dignity that we should extend to each other and be the kind of society that we should be. And so we're going to continue our efforts in that regard. At some point, Bob will probably want to talk about how we're trying to get to the very root of this problem. Bob in the Times, and he's assigned a staff person who we're actually working in the classrooms to have civility being implemented in the classrooms and practiced at a very young level, so as to be able to then have, if the influences are being placed upon the children from external forces, even if it's from home, to give them a more positive perspective.
And as we said, it's a community. It starts at the community, the younger people to do this. What we're doing could apply everywhere, and by bringing awareness to this, we are doing it. I want to get back to a little bit, though. I don't think it's everybody who's out there doing this. I think
I agree.
We are picking up the extremes all the time. And politics is a great example of that, where the sound bites are always one extreme or another. I believe that, and our campaign shows it, people are engaged in this awareness effort, and we're getting some real, whether it's buy-in or support, to be able to offer a World Civility Day for a second year in a row and bring people from around the world to the region. That's really what we're doing with this awareness campaign.
So what made you want, obviously you see the problem, you guys feel this is an important problem to tackle, but you've tackled it in a certain way. You've taken on kind of a project. How did this kind of come together, Bob? I mean, how'd you find Chuck?
Well, yeah, let me explain that, because it's actually a concept that I had in mind a few years ago even. I even actually approached a couple of groups that I was affiliated with, and at the time, maybe they thought that the society was great and there was no need for it, and so it didn't have any traction. And so last year, during a Gary Chamber Public Policy Committee meeting, when the Public Policy Committee was looking for some kind of subject, some kind of material to deal with, I introduced it again. I suggested it to them. And then our chair, Dr. Gordon Bradshaw, who was part of a national and an international group that deals with goodwill and that kind of thing. I mean, he pounced on the idea, and literally in 30 minutes, we came up with community civility counts. Dr. Bradshaw fashioned the logo, and we were set to go, except we didn't have anywhere to go. So we went to our partners at the time, and when we mentioned that to Chris White and Bob, they both suggested that, wow, this is, I'm paraphrasing, they may not say it's a godsend, but they said that this is something that we can use, because if you just see the unsightly letters to the editor and editorials, those kinds of things, and so Bob can take it from there.
And this was 2 years ago, so you understand that. It was 2 years ago, they came to us, and I had just come from Springfield, Illinois. And prior to that, I was in State College, Pennsylvania, as editor of the newspaper. And I was in State College during the Sandusky story. And it was a wild west of online comments, to the point of I'm on the phone with these anonymous people constantly about what people are posting. And then when I got to Springfield, Illinois, the comment threads on everything that was on our website of that paper was about President Obama, one way or the other. So I come to the Times, and we don't have anonymous comments, but I'm thinking this is the kind of thing that we can help get awareness to the next level, which is where it actually is. So we join forces. This is not something the media could do by itself, or the media wouldn't want to do by itself. It's a community project.
And how expansive
is this project? And we couldn't carry it by ourselves. We couldn't get the word out to the world now that we have. And Bob can elaborate on how expansive it is.
We held a news conference in Gary 2 years ago. We unveiled a logo, we unveiled a hashtag, a Facebook page. We started an essay and drawing contest for kids that got a lot of awareness. But one of the key things we did was post a pledge for civil discourse on our opinion page. And that began a process of making sure that readers and columnists and everything about that page would not be calling each other names. And so 2 years later, I can say that we are not doing that on that opinion page. And that's a significant thing. And that just shows how this effort is going.
Not feeding the fire. So how far has this expanded now? So, because it started kind of in Gary, how big has it got?
We had several governments. Chuck, you can talk about that.
Well, what we've done is we've got principally all of our local governments engaged. I mean, cities, Hammond, East Chicago, Gary, Valparaiso, Munster, you name it, all part of the Community Civility Counts campaign. The Lake County Council entirely. Bob and I and Dr. Bradshaw was invited to the Indiana State Legislature. They told us that this was unprecedented, that any kind of initiative had never been adopted by both the House and the Senate unanimously. And they all agreed. In fact,
how'd they adopt that? How'd that work?
By resolution. What happened was we talked to Senator Lonnie Randolph, and he was just blown away. He said, "Oh, my colleagues and myself, we definitely need some kind of initiative like that." So he introduced it on the floor. We were invited down there, and what really warmed our hearts was the fact that once we were there making the presentation and Senator Randolph was introducing us, our other local representatives all got up proudly, didn't they, Bob? Earlene Rogers, Ed Soliday, Ed Charbonneau, all of them got up and said, hey, we're from Northwest Indiana, and we're part of this, and we want to be a part of this. And so consequently, both the House and the Senate adopted this. So we have the entire state legislature that has adopted this. Now, as far as further expanse, as Bob mentioned, we had 8 or 9 different civility groups from other parts of the country that came to our first annual World Civility Day, and our UN ambassador, who is a friend of World Civility Day, Dr. Clyde Rivers, who's a friend of Dr. Bradshaw, has adopted it in the African countries that he represents, and it is in other states. And I mentioned the governmental entities, but we have school districts, East Chicago, Hammond, Hobart, Gary, and on and on.
So this is the second year for the World Civility Project, right?
The first World Civility Day was we picked a date in April because we were 1 year old as a group. And we did that, and we decided to go to the Majestic Star. We didn't really know what would happen. We completely sold out. More than 300 people from about 10 states and other countries. It was huge. So we have now a big plan for this year on April 13th to hold World Civility Day and make it an all-day and evening thing with workshops and a lunch and a dinner and invite everyone to that. So I think we're going to do that. What is the other thing that
So what
happened?
happens? Tell me a little bit more what happens or what's going to happen this year at that event. If I was
This
there,
year we're
what
going
would
to
I
be
see?
on April 13th, a Thursday, a kickoff at lunch at the Indiana Welcome Center in Hammond, and then a series of workshops in the afternoon. We're going to announce those fairly soon. Civility in the workplace, civility in the classroom, civility in discourse. For people to be able to have takeaways, we will have people there from around the country representing civility groups. We will have local people. Civility in the workplace will be huge for local folks
So they
to
share
get
some of
involved
the
in.
best practices kind of thing.
Best
what's going on other
practices that
places.
are happening all over the country, not just with us. We're going to bring together groups like us that have done this. In fact, by the time this, in late January, Rockford, Illinois will have announced a civility campaign just like ours. We have other communities who are modeling somewhat. A few things happened.
We're leading
though.
this, right?
A few
Oh, yeah.
things happened
This is good.
to understand this, though. The Indiana acceptance was the first state in the country to pass a resolution. The Pierogi Fest invited us, and we created welcome greeters at both Pierogi Fests the last 2 years, local citizens who became involved, and that's a very visible way of our campaign involving people.
Okay, so tell me, each of you, pick one activity or one event you've done besides the annual event. Just one thing you've done that's like, this is one of the things we've done and how it worked.
Well, what we have done, I'll say one, then collectively. We have offered civility to 2 different chambers. That's unheard of.
So how did you offer it to them?
No, we didn't offer it. We requested. We were asked to come and present our civility concept to their chamber members, 2 regional chamber members. And we started talking about working together in the region. I mean, that was as gratifying as anything that we've ever done. Would you agree, Bob, to have a Gary chamber exec along with the Times Media Company invited to the Munster Chamber, the Highland Chamber, and I'll throw the names out there because they should be commended.
So I get it. Again, I agree.
And
There's a
we've
lot
done
of
it for
people out
different
there.
elected officials,
Yeah.
for their night out on crime or community meetings. We've availed community civility counts. We work with the Boys and Girls Club on their community day, and
But there's a lot of people that agree with this. So, I mean, I get that, particularly a lot of our leaders who agree. So I can say, hey, I agree. I'm in a chamber. I want to do this. What do you say, what do you guys need to do? What do you recommend they do? What kind of actions do they need to take to help spread the word or practice civil discourse? What do they need to do?
Just share the awareness of it. I mean, we can give signs, we have cards, we have things like that connect people to our campaign, but it's really about showing each other the respect and common courtesy that this whole thing is about.
Yeah,
So it's
Bob,
encouraging those values.
Yeah, Bob is right.
Okay.
Keith, listen, we're not giving anybody a long list, a long 10 principles on how to be civil. It's as basic as the golden rule. Just treat people the way you want to be treated. When you're having interactions, discourse, or whatever with people, keep your point of view. Don't change your perspective. If you're agnostic and I'm Baptist, be whoever you are, but you don't have to curse each other. We don't have to punch each other. We don't have to be
It's the
derogatory.
respect thing, right?
So we want it to be simplified. It's not a simple concept, but we want it to be simplified in that respect so people will know that it is not anything burdensome that they have to undertake. If you just fundamentally just treat people the way you want to be treated, we feel as though whatever your desired result is, you'll achieve it much easier and much simpler.
And we hear from people who after we talk to them or get involved, they say, oh, I thought twice about doing something. And the other thing about what I do, I encourage as much conversation, debate on different issues as possible. So let's do it in a way that we're just really debating the concept and what I believe, and let everybody judge that.
So that's what I was hoping to hear, those examples. So you said people have made this commitment and they said, it made me rethink how I was handling this. And so you're trying to get people to practice a little bit differently how they interact with people, right? Can you give an example of another success where you feel like this project really had an impact on a specific person, a specific group?
Well, last year we began the classroom program in the Lighthouse Charter School in Gary, and we facilitate student conversations and that kind of thing. At the end of the semester, essays were written by a few students, and one kid said this saved him in his school. We have to understand as adults that bullying is so rampant, and it's just this concept down at that level. And as part of our Community Civility Council, we started an anti-bullying awareness program, which we got a lot of examples to share and that kind of thing. And now as part of World Civility Day, we're asking for the best examples in the country on how schools are handling this, so we can give an award and we can raise the visibility. So I think the way the students can respond and react to this is huge. The other example I'll share is, for the second summer, we did the greeting at the Pierogi Fest, where people came and greeted all the people, 300,000 people. We had individuals come this year who weren't involved last year, but they wanted to be part of something. And they didn't even know each other, and they're standing there greeting, but they're part of it. So I think this is all what an awareness campaign is.
And Bob, listen, that point that Bob just made can't be understated. Because I want to give a shout out, I don't know if that's appropriate, to Tom Dabberton from the Whiting-Robertsdale Chamber of Commerce. Again, Keith, if you see what we're saying, you're seeing this interconnection of all of these regional organizations. And that's the silver lining that's in this civility concept, because when we were out there, and Bob and I were part of the greeters as well, we didn't just assemble a bunch of groups, which we did, but we were out there greeting as well, and people who know me know I'm a hugger. And there's people who were coming to that Pierogi Fest, 300,000-400,000 people. They were leaving there with the impression that, man, we have been received so well here in Northwest Indiana.
Made a great impact.
Oh, absolutely.
So, well, I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and I look forward to continue to see this. I think I'm going to try to come to the conference. It sounds like it's really interesting. So
we welcome everybody to the conference, by the way.
Thanks for being on the show today and sharing this really important message.
And just behave yourself. Be civil.
I'm going to be, Chuck, just based on that recommendation. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Have you ever heard someone ask the question, can't you be civil? Hopefully you were the observer of this inquiry and not the target. I actually heard this phrase used several times when I was a kid, and yes, sometimes it was directed at me and my brother. I knew what it meant when one of my parents fired it toward us. The message was, you two need to calm down, quit acting like idiots, and treat each other better, meaning with some respect. I don't think we hear that phrase used much anymore, but many of us are thinking it. Most likely we verbalize some version of that question when watching a video of people interacting badly. They can't hear us, so we say a lot of things that may sound like we are not very civil. When we are at an event or incident where people are not being civil, maybe we should cry out, can't you all be civil? I wonder what would happen. They might be surprised, would pause and think, then become calm and respectful. On the other hand, they may view our comment as an attack and believe that we are entering the fray. I think the second response has the highest probability of occurring. I believe that some form of this question needs to be posed. How do we react in a civil way while conveying the basic message of calm down, quit acting like idiots, and show some respect? I think we can break it into pieces. We must do something that helps quiet the situation. Our controlled demeanor can have a positive impact, validating that you hear not only their content, but the emotion behind it may help. There are several effective techniques. The quit acting like idiots might only require a phrase like, "This is getting us nowhere," or "Little will be accomplished if we are going to yell and attack." The right person, the appropriate time, and a select choice of words is the combination which could work best. Lastly, let's remind them of the importance of respect and common ground. Will this work? I'm not sure. What I do know is this: if we don't start trying to challenge the incivility, it will only get worse. It will take courage and tact. Today's show shared ideas on how to create civil conversation. New forms of civil discourse are what we need, yet the storm continues. Is there a balance of proactive and reactive strategies? Probably. All I know is that it's going to take a major effort to change how we interact in this country. I'm willing to do my part. How about you? Thanks for watching our show. How about letting us hear your thoughts on what you heard today? Do it by using the email address or website listed on your screen. We'd love to hear your comments. And don't forget to watch past shows from the website. I'm sure you have missed a few during those Friday nights of exciting social activities or Sunday mornings at your place of worship. Our website lets you catch up. Make sure you join us next week for another Lakeshore Focus. Until then, I'm Keith Kirkpatrick saying, make a positive difference in our world today.
Programming is supported by NIPSCO. Today's young minds are constantly reimagining what our world will be like tomorrow. That's why NIPSCO is upgrading its infrastructure now, so we're ready for whatever comes next. More information at nipsco.com/future.